other people. And one of the things I found with questions is, as somebody with this off-the-wall sense of humor, it's awfully hard for me to stick my own foot in my mouth if I'm asking you a question and then listening. So, skill with questions is actually the greatest tool that anybody can have. And open-ended questions. George, I'm going to pick on you here. Let me ask you, sir, are you gainfully employed? Are you still looking for a position?
Employed.
Okay, where are you working?
Industrial servo.
I'm not familiar with that. What's industrial servo?
It's a hydraulic shop. They
Okay.
fix hydraulic parts and machines and stuff.
What kind of companies do you guys work with?
Like the car companies like Chrysler.
So you work with the Detroit 3 in the supplier base, is that correct?
Yeah, well, yeah, some of them.
Some of them? Okay. Okay. And are you in operations? Do you work on the,
No, I'm just a shipping clerk. Shipping receiver.
you're gonna like what I got coming up. So you make sure things get to where they're going, correct?
Yeah.
You know, my MBA teacher told me, if you can handle logistics, you've got business mastered. They're actually fortunate to have somebody like yourself, George, who gets things to where they're going and makes sure things get in there. Is that what your job basically is?
Yeah, yeah.
Outstanding, outstanding. You know, I offered one or two reflections back on what George said, but I didn't know anything about George. You know, I knew there was somebody who probably did that, but I didn't think about it consciously. And here's the funny part. George, even though he's an expert and he brings that expertise to his job every day, if I looked at you and I was asking you, say, you know, a friend of mine has a company and he's having problems with his logistics. Is there a company that you folks use for, you know, big things that are on pallets to get them to and from stuff, or is there a carrier you think is the better one?
Yeah, then we use one a little bit.
Okay. Suddenly I have a resource. Suddenly, if I ever have a shipping, a logistics problem or such, George is now in my circle of influence, and I can go to him and get honest, unbiased information based on his area of expertise. So that's kind of the neat thing about skills with questions. Rather than tell him, you know, geez, George, I think, you know what, I had just such a crummy experience with FedEx. I'll never use them again. UPS all the way. And then, you know, the other day I was driving in this big truck from Old Dominion. I mean, they're a big logistics company, aren't they? They cut me off and da-da-da. None of that's true, by the way, but just that idea. Rather than sit there and offering statements about how smart I am, I can learn more from George from an honest conversation. So that skill with questions. Really listen to what people have to say, because listening is caring. Listening means that you're present to what they're saying. So that ability to hear, and rather than sitting there thinking, oh my God, I gotta go home and let out the dog, and then, you know, I need to get something clean for tomorrow, and then you know, be present when you ask these questions. You'll never know the nuggets of gold or wisdom that somebody's going to give you. So, thank you for playing along with me. Let me ask you a quick question. What's the #1 tool we use in business networking?
Business cards.
Thank you, very good. Very good. You know, business cards, let me ask you, quick show of hands, who here has a business card? Everyone should have their hand up at that. Why? If you think back, business cards actually evolved from calling cards. And calling cards go all the way back to ancient China. They were used to introduce people to the houses of nobility. Here in America, calling cards really came into favor. They came over from England about the middle 1800s. And business owners and then gentlemen seeking ladies would also have calling cards. There was, in some households, there was trays where the gentleman, if he was trying to meet one of the father's daughter, he would put that tray card on the tray, and the father would consider it. If the household had more than one daughter, you would fold it like a teddy. Nowadays, obviously with the online dating sources, we're a lot less formal, but it's important to have that information readily available. What does it say when you give somebody a business card? Well, I'm going to give you some thoughts. By giving you my business card, I give you permission, number one, to have the most accurate information available about me. If you've ever done database sales or research or stuff like that, that business card I hand you today is more accurate than anything online, than any book, anything. You have the most accurate information I can supply with you. Number two, I'm going to give you a means to follow up with me after this event. I'm going to give you a phone number, an email address, maybe other things, social media platforms, ways to stay interactive with me. Number three, I trust you enough that there is the seeds there of a future business relationship. Not necessarily a future business relationship, but the seeds, because like any business relationship, it needs to grow, it needs to be nurtured, that ability to have the seed of a future business relationship. I ask that you refer people to me that you perceive a good opportunity, a good prospect, a good idea for. And in return, I will do the same for you. So those 5 things we're saying to other people when we take their business card or when we give them our business card. My second law of networking, Ladder's law number 2 of business networking, don't ever take anybody's business card you wouldn't do that for. Don't sit there because they're putting a lot of trust in you. That ability to have that information about them. In the electronic age, I believe data is more valuable than gold. I now know a logistics expert. So if you sit there and you came to me and said, you know what? I have all these widgets. I've got 12 pallets worth of widgets. Do I use a UPS? Do I use another company? Oh, that's a good idea. Why don't I call George? We'll see what maybe his recommendations are on it. So that ability on it. So don't take somebody's business card unless you're willing to be honest, to be vulnerable, that ability to say on that. Now, on the back of every business card, I would say about 80–85% of them are blank. Sometimes some people do put things on the back. If that's the case, I'm going to give you some suggestions here. What to write on the back of the business card. And before I say this, yes, you'll have people who do write on them, or you'll get people who have the nice glossy laminated on them. Bring a Sharpie marker. But your pen is your friend. We'll talk about that. But on the back, you want to be impressive when you talk to these people the next time. Number one thing, right, where did we meet? We met at the Jobs Club. The event, the place, the date. Most people aren't as good as Luther at remembering dates and places. Luther, you are the whiz at that. So that ability, yeah, big thumbs up back to you guys. Mm-hmm. That idea of most of us, we don't remember those things. Heck, we probably, who haven't I picked on? John, what did you have last night for dinner?
Leftovers.
Okay, see how long it took me to think about that? You know what? We are sometimes so present moment that we can't even remember the things we have. So that ability to remember things about people. What did we discuss? Sometimes you don't discuss business. Sometimes you sit there and say the person's wearing a Lions shirt and you're saying, oh, well, do you think they're going to be any better? What do you think is going to happen now that Sula left them? Or, you know, that person's got, you know, looks really smart. You know, you look and you say, you know, man, that is a really smart looking outfit. Boy, you look really well. I just came from a baby shower or something like that. Sometimes, you know, if you say, boy, I met you at the Jobs Club, and you and your sister were both wearing hats. It takes a lot of women don't wear hats, and they're such a great fashion accessory or something like that. That ability. What was your impressions? What was your what did you take away from them? Number 4. Here's the key one, especially if you're networking either for jobs or for business. what's your next action or follow-up with them? If you said that you were going to send them your resume, or if you were going to email them a PDF brochure, whatever you were going to do, what was that next action, that first action that you're going to take as a result of this interaction? And then you'll notice Luther's following good practice. There are laws around it. It's called ICANN. Are you going to add them to your social media, your mailing list, or your newsletter? For a lot of people, that's a way to really exert your expertise, is to become that knowledgeable person in a sector. I know a real estate agent tends to talk to everybody in the room. He sends out an e-newsletter every 2 weeks, and the only thing he talks about his business is he's got his name, his picture, his company logo, and instead he collects cool articles around the internet, and oftentimes they're related to houses or related to investments or such. So that's a way that he keeps his expertise in front of other people. That's a nice tip there too, especially if you're trying to create influence and expertise. Have that as part of what you're doing. Now, why do I ask you to write all this stuff down on the back? As I hinted earlier, when it comes to remembering all the details of everything you talk about with somebody, all the different people you talked about, Laddister's Law is simple. A good pen is far better than a good memory. So, you suddenly have all these business cards. You've gone to an event like this, or you've gone to a business-to-business mixer, or you've met somebody in the library or wherever your travels take you to. The next thing I suggest is you need a system. You need a system for your business cards and your contacts. Let me ask you a question. Quick show of hands here. Anybody here on Gmail? Anybody here use Mac Mail for on their iPhone or on their desktop, or Outlook, Microsoft Outlook? Does anybody use a more professional system, maybe like Goldmine or ACT or some CRM software on it? Okay, all great tools. But I suggest to you right now, if you ask me what's the #1 system most people use,
The one you use.
I will tell you right now, without a doubt, this is how most people organize their business cards. Back of a drawer, rubber band together, and if you're a little low, I think I have a few to spare with you. Yes, I'm not going to shoot Luther even though it's Don't do that as a class clown. How many people, though, in a drawer or somewhere in their space, have a rubber band of at least a couple of business cards that you were meaning to do something with?
I go to the dollar store and get the little photo albums and create.
That's what I'm
And then when
saying.
somebody walks up to you, I'll go, I got a card on that, let me go.
It's a functional system,
Right.
rather than sit there and say, I met somebody who was an alternative healer, and I know you've had some challenges. Have you, you have a functional system. A lot of people don't.
And I've used it often to
Mhm.
refer people to other businesses.
I haven't put them in here yet, but I heard Evernote, it's an app.
I have Evernote on my phone, and you can shoot it with your. But then once you've got it, I'm going to say the most important thing is not the cards. It's nice to have them and be able to pass them out to other people, or oftentimes take 2 or 3 cards. But that data on them. Remember, what did we say? When I give you my card, I've given you the most up-to-date data that there is for me. I've given you my email address. I've given you my telephone number. I've given you, most people still use some sort of mail or some sort of office address or such on them. So I've given you a database worth thousands and thousands of dollars if you are a serious networker. But guess what? The cards don't mean anything. It's nice that they have great designs on them. It's nice that they look pretty and pleasing to the touch, and you use laminated stocks or you use bright colors, but it's that data on them. That's where the riches are found. So that ability to have a system that works for you. Your binder system works great for you.
Mm-hmm.
For other people, you might want to have something electronic. You might want to have it across platforms. Excuse me. The good thing about having something across platforms is that because you have 4 or 5 different technology portals, desktop, laptop, tablet, smartphone, you've got all these different ways to access, you don't know where you're going to be when you want that information. So that ability to have it at your hand, have it handy wherever you are. So that ability, I'll acknowledge you, let me just make my point. But that ability to have it wherever you are. You need somebody's number, you know, think about it. You get an offender bender, what's the #1 number you want? You want your insurance agent's number. You don't want to sit there and say, oh my God, it's on a card, back at the desk. No, that idea of having that information readily available anytime you want. Yes?
So what app would you suggest is the best one to, and how do you like scan your cards into that app, or what do you do?
Yes, I will tell you, I use a business card scanner, and because I value my data. One of my mentors, the person I first brought to this meeting, was a man named Charles F. Spademan, Fritz Spademan. He was the most remarkable man in terms of list management, because he knew the value of a good list. Now, I will tell you, I don't necessarily tell people, oh, you need to use Evernote, or you need to use Gmail's contact services, or whatever. Because part of it is, I don't know what you have. You gotta, one of Dean's thoughts is you need to bloom where you're planted. I don't wanna say, oh, you need this iPhone app if you're on an Android device, or vice versa. Or I don't wanna say that, oh, you know, a friend of mine has a great sales app, but it's only on the iOS, called Sales Goal on Fire, Sandy Barris. But if you're an Android user, it'd be silly for me to recommend that. So you have to find something that works for you, because most people start off when they're doing data with great intent. Oh my God, my life, I'm gonna be so organized. And then the difference between the effective and ineffective people is the ineffective people don't stick with it. That ability to have that, try something. Try Evernote, try, you know, do a little bit of research, see what platforms you have. That's why I kind of use this is kind of getting off to the side here, but I really believe it's important to stay in an ecosphere. For example, I started off in life, I was a Mac guy before anybody else was a Mac guy. When I went for my MBA, I had to have certain software that was only going to work with PCs, and even as a Mac guy, I thought boot camp would do it, would emulate it, didn't. So the folks at the university got invested in a laptop, so I've kind of gone over to the Google side of it. My daughter is the queen of Macs. She has the iPhone, she has the iPad, at one point she had 2 laptops, and her boyfriend has a Mac desktop. You know, so they all have that one ecosphere rather, where it works for them. And I think that's one of the things that keeps it simple, is that ability to have it. If you need it on your phone, if you need it on your computer, that's why I don't make a hard recommendation, say you need to get this. Instead, find things you're comfortable with so you'll go back to it. Oftentimes, you know, one of the revenge of the nerds is they make it so complicated only a kid can use it. And I use that example. I was trying to work with somebody, and the only way we could meet was on Skype. I couldn't get it to work. Leanne, my 14-year-old, comes over, and within 90 seconds, you know, it's kind of a corollary here, you know, as soon as you think they made something idiot-proof, the universe comes up with a better grade of idiot. One of the reasons why you want to keep things accessible is one of the things I truly believe in, whether you're in sales, marketing, service provider, or hunting for work, the #1 disease, which I believe stifles our cash flow, is call reluctance. I really believe that, and we're going to talk about that, and we're going to use this little chart here I gave you, or I'm going to use it over here. Somebody made a joke about the recent NCAA rules. But let's talk about call reluctance for a second. We sit there and we say, well, why should I call them? Well, What if they didn't like me? What if they forgot who I was? I mean, I copied down on the back of my card who they were, but I forgot what if they forgot me? Or what if they want me to sign up for something I don't want to be a part of? Or mom told me not to talk to strangers. So our self-talk oftentimes keeps us from our good. Well, there's got to be a less painful way to do it. And for some of you, I suggest a grok chart. This was taught to me by Dr. Michael A. Laurenti, brilliant Gestalt therapist who got bored with being a Gestalt therapist, so he went and became a chiropractor. Now,
What was his name again?
Dr. Michael A. Laurenti. He used to have a practice in Blossom. Now he's semi-retired. Now, if you were following Michigan State, you know that, again, you start over here in the land of 64, and you work your way towards the middle, and then, you know, Michigan State made it to the Final Four. I'm going to suggest we do it inside out. In the center of our chart is you. You're already the winner. And if you use this method, you'll really be good. So I've got you in the middle, and we're going to go outward. I'm going to take a different color here because I can. I'm going to put my name here. I'm going to put Luther here. I'm going to put my wife, Mary Ellen, here. And I'm going to put my friend Brenda here. You know what? Let's say these represent different parts of your lives. This represents networking. This represents family and friends. This one here represents industry and contracts. And stealing one from Alex Trebek, we'll call this one potpourri. Okay, so your job is to go out in different directions. Let's say you suddenly have that big stick, Dean, take two. Let's say you have that big, thick stack of business cards from the last 6 months of networking events. And it's sitting there in your drawer, wrapped securely in a rubber band. Well, my suggestion to you is you take one, you put a name in there, and then you work outward on it. You put there Bob, you put there Janice, you put there Walt, you put there Mary, Beth. Now, I call myself a writer, but I'm not much of a calligrapher. I always feel like a meteorologist when I'm standing there like this. But that idea of moving outward from you at the center, because if you think about things don't happen to us, they oftentimes happen through us. So as that center point of focus, as you start putting in your names, and you fill up that chart, and you've got 64 different people to contact, because oftentimes it looks Herculean. Well, so you take those 64 names, divide them by 4. That's 16. Why? Well, there's 4 weeks in a month. So taking 4 days out of the work week, because there's going to be some day you're not going to get to it, that means that if you talked to everybody on your grok chart, and you just talked to 4 of them a day, 40 minutes maybe, 10 minutes a call, maybe 30 minutes, maybe an hour, depending on how you work your process, in a month, not only would you have contacted, they would be coming back. People would be returning your calls, returning your emails, following up with you. So suddenly you spread all this good out onto the planet. There's going to be some sort of reciprocity. It's going to come back. So you're talking to new people, people are following up with you, and then you can see and look at the results. Yeah, Dean had a good referral for me, but Mary Beth, no. Mary Beth knew nothing. Brenda said get back to her in 2 weeks, but Mel said, well, talk to Dean. You know, so that idea there, you in the center, you're already the winner, you're already the champ. Why? Because you have all these resources going for you, all these great people. Remember, we said earlier, life is a contact sport. Now I've just given you a strategy in order to fulfill that. It's no longer a cliche. Very practical thing on it. And if you need additional copies of that grok chart, email me, I will send them over to you. So, the thing about it is you get all this information, figuring out a way to contact people, that ability to talk to people and have, good interactions with them. And whether you're emailing them, whether you're phoning them, whatever you're doing, again, life is that ability to engage people in your process and be respectful and mindful of theirs. So I'm going to kind of pause here at a moment because what I'd like to do is open it up to either questions, or if you don't have any questions, for anybody who's still not comfortable with networking, we all here have seen the shows Extreme Home Makeover. Well, I want to give you an extreme networking makeover. If somebody has comments or concerns or doesn't think they're doing it right or would like to be better in it. So, yes?
What does ROC stand for again?
I do not know.
Oh.
Dr. Lorente did not tell me that.
Oh, okay.
So, next time I see him, I'll see what, I'll ask that question. You know what? I never thought to ask him. Skill with questions. See, you put me in a place I never was before.
It's some kind of 60s word, I know that.
Could be.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It came from the 60s. I
Now-
think it had something to do with relationship.
Could be. I'd rather sit here and play total ignorance than, what's that old joke? 72% of statistics are made up on the spot. So I'd rather, I'm not going to bluff my way through this one.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions on anything I've covered to this point? Anybody want to take me up? Yes?
Do you have a workshop on this? Because I'll admit, I came here late, and this is something, I'll be honest, I'm terrified about being vulnerable and asking people for help.
You got here just in time.
Okay, so do you do a workshop on this?
I talk to places like this. I'll tell you what. You want to give me a call, my phone number's on there. Anybody who, if you have questions afterwards, or if you want to spend some time dialoguing after this, I'll give you 30 minutes to at least talk about some things.